Okay. And I'm going to play that. Feeding back here. Something is feeding back. What is feeding back? Oh, this is feeding back. Sorry about that. Okay, here's the music again. Ah, yes. Yeah, man. That was just so burning.
I
Footprints,
forgot
yeah.
how fun it was to play music. Remember that? Playing music?
Yes, I do. My guest today is John Bishop, and before I go any further, Joyce Glasgow says hi.
Hi, Joyce. How are you?
Um, yeah, and and I got your extra video, so we'll be looking at that. Um, and I'm just finding my way around today here a little bit. And where am I? Right here. I found myself. It's great. um, yeah. So John Bishop, I'm so happy to really finally talk to you.
Yeah, for real. I
Yeah,
think we chatted for a minute at Jazz Week,
I
maybe
think so. Yeah.
4 years ago or something. Yeah,
Yeah. That was fun. I really missed that.
yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. Reminded me of the IAJE, the original IAJE.
Hmm.
That was just so much fun, walking down the hall and you look up to your right and the guy walking next to you is Chick Corea, and you're like, "Hi,
Yeah,
Chick." He's like,
yeah.
"Hi, how you doing?" Yeah, it's really fun. Um, so y- besides being the owner and the founder of Origin Records, which we'll talk about, of course, your career is a really impressive one. I know you're gonna like look around and go, "Who? What?"
Yeah, right.
But reading your bio and what you've done uh, is impressive. It's really it's not just, oh, I played with this guy and this guy, but there's some really beautiful things that sound just kind of brilliant and fun and involving a lot of people that are great. Um, so my questions are very haphazard. I hope
Yeah,
you
yeah,
I
yeah.
hope you know that.
As is my life, so it fits perfectly. Good.
So, well, first of all, I want to know uh, how you came up. Did you come up in a musical family? Where did you grow up, and how did it all kind of start for you?
So it's actually interesting being old now. It just hit me like in just the last couple of years where it was like that look back, that trying to
Yeah.
figure out how this all stumbled, and I just saw my mom and my sister the other day, and it dawned on me. My sister and I were talking about uh, lamps and art for some reason. It was like it realized that we had been set up by our parents when we moved to Germany when I was 7 months old.
Oh.
And so we've got photos of us at my sister and I at the Louvre and
Oh.
at the Uffizi and in Rome and at the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam and just all this crap that I just kind of never thought about that much. It was just kind of like, oh, that's
Yeah.
what growing up is like. And when we moved back to Washington, D.C., we drove across the country twice by the time I was 7. And, went to the National Gallery and Smithsonian. And my dad had Kind of Blue and stacks of records that we listened to every week. And we went to the library. And so 4 years old with stacks of books. It was like, and I told my mom, you played us, you were like training these little urchins into being something, and we couldn't just be kids. You had to throw this on us. So anyway, yeah. So my sister's an interior designer, and my little brother's a
Oh.
drummer, and my other little brother is just one of the. Uh, uh, I don't know what you call him. He's a collector of information. His
Yeah.
brain is overflowing. So
Huh. Interesting.
that's kind of what I grew up with. Up until
Yeah.
I was 7 when I started playing drums, and then that was my focus from then on out. Basically,
Yeah.
little
Interesting. That
sidetracked with
is
soccer.
interesting. Yeah.
Pardon me?
That is interesting because, I actually seem to touch on that subject a few times a week, it seems. Like kids they are sponges, they just,
Huh.
whatever is around them, they pretty much make it okay. I'm sure there are situations where there's not okay, but just, growing up in even unusual circumstances, it's like, yeah, this is my life.
Yeah, yeah. No, it just and it just that realization made me realize, oh, well, that's what I still do is I like to get in the car and drive. It's
Uh,
not that big of a deal to, put together a little string of gigs and do a ridiculous amount of driving or getting on planes or just
are you
having
traveling
to
with
meet
like,
new people.
are you traveling with John Stowell or what?
Uh, no, John does his own. He's got his own thing. We just try to catch him when he's up in this kind of neighborhood.
Yeah, he's a maniac on the road. Jeez.
Just incredible.
Yeah. Wow. But anyway, back to you.
Oh yeah, this is the me show, isn't it? But anyway, that was the setup for just by the time I got to junior high school, it was, just focusing on music and having parents and family that was completely behind it. And
So where were you? What's
so we were in Germany for 4 years, then moved to Washington, D.C. for 5 years
yeah. Okay.
in the late 60s. And then my dad got moved to San Antonio. So
Hmm.
we got to experience the Texas lifestyle of the early 70s.
Oh wow.
And we were down there, and then he died when I was 12. We were going to be moving back to DC, but we ended up moving to Eugene, Oregon, where our family was from. So moved back there just in time to start junior high school, and that was like probably the most fortunate thing. Eugene was just this great place to
Hmm.
grow up. Our school was great, and I was surrounded by just inspired people. And it was so that 10 years that I spent in Eugene was everything getting me set for this life I have now, as far as music and the people I play with and just my sense of what I'm doing.
Yeah.
It was
Nice.
Eugene was such a nice hippie hotbed, back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's where that started.
Interesting. Who are some of the people that kind of came out of that? Were there or people who are your mentors? Are they around now or
There's still some left. I was taking drum lessons with Mel Brown up in Portland,
okay.
who had just moved back to Portland. He was on the road with Martha and the Vandals and Diana Ross, and he opened the Mel Brown drum shop, and he's
Huh.
still playing now, and is just just swinging great drummer.
Wow.
So that was like, starting when I was 16, I was
Yeah.
studying with him, and that was uh, heavy. It was great. And then just the people who were around there, just I started playing gigs with Emmett Wilson, who was Williams, who was from Alabama.
Huh.
He seemed like an big old guy, and he was probably in his 40s, but he did piano trio and the classic thing. So I'd be 16 or 17, and we'd be playing these restaurants and doing that music. And then I was playing with the Robel brothers, who did like Elks clubs and lounge music kind of things. And then I had a 9-piece funk band that did
Oh,
high school and college
yeah.
dances and frat parties, doing Tower Power and Earth, Wind and Fire and
So good
all of
when
that.
when you got a bigger band like that doing that music. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then that uh, that smooth jazz predecessor, the Jeff Lorber's Dan Siegel.
Oh,
Dan
yeah,
Siegel
yeah.
was from Eugene, and Tom
Oh,
Grant was in Portland. So just doing all these jumping from all the different idioms within this jazz kind of thing, and
yeah.
and they were all done at a very high level. And so there were a bunch of us in high school and college, probably 10 or 12 of us that are all still going professionals, who got our start there, where it was just like you showed up and you had to do your job really well, or there's somebody else there. It was a great little place to be.
Yeah, that's great. I, I've thought of that over the many years here that I've taught and I've done workshops. And, a lot of adult singers, beginners or semi pros will, uh, you know, come to workshops and they will hire an arranger and create a show that
Mhm.
they really rehearse, and everything's rehearsed and done and great, and they put the show on and it's good. But then they don't have anything else to do. They don't have all of that history that we were able to have. We worked 10 gigs a week,
Yep.
at some point, because that was what was happening. We were sharing and we were learning, we were making mistakes, we were doing everything. And that's, I've often wondered about that. I mean, people do create smaller communities like showcases or weekly showcases and that kind of thing, which are extremely valuable. But boy, working 10 gigs a week, that was, in all these different genres that you were talking about,
Yeah.
it
And you
really
take
made a
it
difference.
for, it's not taking it for granted, but you just kind of think
Yeah,
this is the way it is.
yeah,
And, and it's definitely what I got used to, just that sense of, every day there was something to do. And it was
yeah.
like you were going to throw yourself into a situation where you're uncomfortable and, where you got to figure it out quick. Uh, but at the same time, the payoff was, if you did the right thing, somebody would turn around and go, "Yeah, man." You just get that little thing, and you learn how to connect with an audience. And it's like not once every 6 months; it's like every single day.
Yeah,
You would have just this thing that's building. It's building who you are.
yeah,
And when I think about the having the label now, it seems like it could be a big stretch, but to me, it's just a continuation of everything that I started doing in the '70s. It's just every day you're just trying to build a relationship. You're trying to build a thing, trying to help other people find their thing, and thus you find your thing.
yeah. Well, as long as you brought up the label,
Mhm.
so what on earth made you decide to do a label? And did you foresee what it would become, or did you just go, oh, I should have a label? Or how did that come about?
Yeah, absolutely none of that. It was just like everything.
Okay.
It's just stumbling along, just
Oh,
trying to figure out. I, so one thing I had always done since I think maybe since I was 14, I've been in a band.
yeah.
So each time I would get into a band, you play the drums, but then you also need to contribute to something. And for me, it was usually making a poster or a cassette cover or something like that. And since I wasn't writing the tunes or doing any of that, I was trying to organizationally do stuff. So by '97, um, I had already gotten a computer and was starting to work on computer graphics for things. Um, and it was still kind of involved. I mean, in order to like make a CD cover, you had to create it, and then you had to take the files and dump them to this big storage thing, and then get in the car and drive down to a film output place and spend $350 to get film and a proof, the first proof you would see of the cover. So to get into there was a big learning curve for that first step. And then from there, once you figure that out, you just kind of go. But to be the person who went through that process and figured that out, it meant that I had something that was worthwhile to people. So, some friends would have CD that they wanted to put out. So um, I'd help out, put it together. And, I was doing 10, 15, 20, 30 of those. And um, I had a few projects that I played on and I, produced, and it was like our people, and they were all coming out at the same time. So I just made up a name and put it on it and said, okay, let's just do this, bake it. And then, so we did that, put my sister had a gallery down in Eugene, a furniture store and art gallery. And we were playing there first Fridays. It was either my little brother or me driving down and playing these things. And she wanted to put out a CD of, that since she created this cool little jazz art thing. So that was the start of it. Her store was named Provenance, so origin. I took the translation of that, and I used her birth date as the first catalog number. And that was that. And so a couple months later, Earshot Magazine said, new label in town, and here's its look, and here's its sound. So,
man, it just happened.
Yeah, and then all the musicians we know in the world, everybody's trying to figure out what to do. So it wasn't long before we had exactly that, 10, 15, 20, 30 origin records. And so at that point, it's not that big of a stretch to get a database together of some radio stations. And I mean, we'd already been doing all that stuff before. So it didn't seem like a big stretch to just fake a record label.
Yeah.
And that's basically what I've been doing all along, is faking a record label. And it's just, kept going and going and going.
How many years has it been?
It's been, I think, like 24 now. 24 years, 700 records we're going to hit this year. Wow. And 350 artists. And
of which I am going to be one.
That's, really? Have we talked about this?
No,
that's exactly right. That's exactly right. No, looking forward to it. Like I said, I was listening to it the other day, and just some beautiful stuff on there.
Thanks.
I'm looking forward to that.
This record for me is a little bit of a stretch outside the normal record for me. And I don't even know what normal means, but it's just utilizing some other, like for instance, a lot of backgrounds on it. And I actually ended up having two guests who I just couldn't be more thrilled. Paul Jost, great singer, and Mon David, great singer. And they both have this quality of presence and kind of an ethics about who they are and what they're putting out, and so it's talking about, like you said, looking back. Yeah, I can't help but look back, especially because the music is from the 70s and 80s. Right. And it's really, there's this feeling of connecting who I am throughout the years, which is, I like that feeling. It's really good. It's like, oh yeah, this is who I am,
Yeah. It's interesting looking from this side, isn't it? Looking back at how things developed and went along, and how one little relationship turned into this big other flowering thing years later.
Yeah.
So,
and choices that we've made. And also, I don't know if you experience this directly. I think singers just naturally experience this, but many years ago, I realized that competition was, a certain kind of competition is okay, like a friendly competition, but other than that, it means nothing. And it's just there's a few different outlooks. One is, let's say my girlfriend gets this big concert that I would love to have, but I didn't get, or gets record label attention or whatever. Then I just know that my own path is my own path. And if I want something like that, I just haven't done whatever it takes to get there. And that's it. It has nothing to do with, oh, they have it and I want it, and why don't I have it? So there's that part of it, looking from the side, at
Right.
looking back, the choices and just what happened, not even my choices, but the creations that just happened on my path.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, and that competition thing, I just can't imagine. I mean, considering the competition you already have going on in yourself, with yourself, to get to that next thing, and then
Yeah.
you bring out in all these outside battles. It's just brutal.
Yeah,
Yeah,
really.
I was doing a gig with a band back in when I first moved to Seattle way back, and we had done I had done rehearsals, and we did all these lame little gigs, and then finally the good gig came up, and they pulled in this other drummer to do the good gig, and so I was kind of talking to the bass player and just going, so what the hell, and and uh, that doesn't seem fair, like why, he said, just play better. It's like, oh yeah, okay. I guess it's up to me, isn't it? Yeah.
Plus, it's the right focus,
Hmm.
When you start thinking about that, that's what you're thinking about, and that's, a much better way to live, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, and there's the thing too about just entering all this. I mean, part of the joy is of music is that discovery, where you hear one of your friends play and they play something that just blows your mind. I mean, that's great, right?
Yeah.
Or when you hear somebody that you might wish you had their thing to actually enjoy when they play something great, even though
Yeah.
you want their gig and you think you deserve this for that. Um, uh, that yeah, I mean that's why we do this, is that surprise and that you know that the building of character of of your personal voice, of all these things that come out of one of those moments.
Yeah.
That's what we live for,
Yeah.
I'm thinking.
I think you're right. Hey, I have a hello from, well, a friend of mine here, Rowan Ascaroons, who is a guitar player, kind of. That he used to play, and he has a lot of guitars, and Frank Griffith. Do you remember his name?
Frank.
Yep.
Well, he can vouch for me on that whole Eugene thing. We went to high school together, and
That's what he said,
yeah, yeah.
1975. And he said, "You're looking good. How the hell do you do it?"
Well, this this isn't cheap, okay, Frank?
um, and he wants to hear Hal Galper stories.
Uh, uh, well, uh, well, actually, first, would you ask Frank, or I guess I can ask him.
Yes.
Frank, do you still have my Cannonball, Them Dirty Blues records?
Oh, Frank,
Because
you
I
didn't tell me
remember
that
loaning
part.
that quite some time ago, and I can't remember if I ever got it back. But anyway, yeah, is that what we're doing? Hal Galper stories?
You can tell one.
Uh, oh, Hal. So Hal is, I mean, all I can speak is great things there, because that was like a mind altering and career altering and everything. 15 years ago or so, um, Hal had been playing with Jeff Johnson, bass player from here, for 10 years, and then Hal kind of retired because he just was, getting drugged with the playing thing. But then maybe 6 or 7 years later, he heard this thing that Jeff and I had done with John Stoll, because we had
Oh,
an ongoing thing. And just like the way it was matching up with the way he was sharing music, which was more open rubato kind of thing. So he flew out, and we played in our living room one day, Jeff and Hal and I, and we played about maybe a minute and a half of a tune, and he said, let's let's try this, and just don't worry about time. Let's just wander through it. And so we did, and we did that for another hour and a half. And then the next day we went in the studio and we made a record. And then we played, 15 years after that, and never really discussed concept or anything after that.
wow.
It was just kind of like, okay, this is who we are now. And um, we'll go we'll go play. And Hal is kind of a blustery, opinionated person. But when it comes to the music, there was just never any comments, never any, never any of that, turning around and going, that thing you're doing, don't do that. There was never that. And so anyway, just there's some wild Hal stories to go along, but just the thing I got out of that is just like gratitude for that period of time. Some incredible experiences in just making the music in that kind of environment where you can do no wrong.
Yeah.
We'd walk into a club and knowing that quite a few people would not get what we were doing.
Yeah.
And yet it was okay. Everything's okay. Some people would come away with, a fresh new look. Other people would be annoyed, but, we did what we did. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. That's a real blessing to be able to do that as an artist. Yeah. Yeah. And I think probably not for those who walk away and don't like it, but for those who like it, it's kind of part of our job, right? To give people something, excuse me, that goes underneath, inside, and does things like allow people to feel that they can be free.
Yeah. No, it just, that whole thing where we, that was the freedom that Hal gave us was, that throughout life, you're always trying to make people happy with your music. You're always trying to I'm trying so hard to make you like me, kind of thing. And his approach to it was like, nah, here, this is what we have to offer. Here it is. And seeing the kind of visceral experiences people go through when they experience something like that, because usually they are fed things like, you paid a bunch of money, you should like this. It was an interesting and very eye-opening, and it's changed my approach to just playing music with anybody.
Yeah, that's great. As I was telling you earlier, last night I went to a live performance for Sam First is a club that's near LAX that came up about 2 or 3 years ago, and kind of spin off of the Blue Whale, that kind of music, more modern stuff. And the man who designed the place, it's kind of looks like 60s, kind of crazy.
Really?
Yeah, it's an interesting design. Anyway, he designed an office building. He has several of them in Hollywood. There's one in Lisbon and London. And the offices, the whole building is low level, and each office looks like that. It's really, it's trippy. Wow. Plus, there's big open spaces. There's a coffee bar, a bar, and lots of green stuff. So anyway, so he asked Sam First if he would bring over, for about 6 weeks, bring over some of the music. So they did. And last night could have been the last one that they're doing in this series, but it was Larry Goldings on keyboards, and he had some really interesting keyboard things happening, which he always does. He's such a character. He's so funny. And the great Anthony Wilson on guitar, and this drummer who maybe for jazz people is not, like on the tip of their tongue, but Jay Bellerose. And I just kind of don't know how to describe him, except that he's kind of a minimalist player. He has a very small set, and he's not busy, at least in this situation. He's very, but I watched him. It's like he's not moving a tremendous amount, but every time he does something, it's perfect. it's the perfect spot. It's the perfect addition. And the three of them were so married. And some friends of mine were sitting there, and every time something amazing happened, we all laughed at the same spot. You know, I mean, there was so much of that. And, you know, I mean, everything from Close to You.
Yeah.
Blueberry Hill, and it was a great evening. And you know, I think probably one of Larry's first gigs, you know, since the whole pandemic started. So he was really thankful that, you know, there were live people there, and the response. It was a really great evening of music.
That's pretty cool. No, the next few months are going to be kind of wacky, aren't they?
Yes.
Everybody laughing and crying. And
yes.
it'll be.
But the reason why I brought that up was because that's how they play. Mm-hmm. They played, I mean, they had the songs, but there was a curiosity and creativity and everything that, you know, happened throughout the song, after the song, before the song. And you just went along with the ride as the audience, you know, and it was divine.
Yeah. No, it's beautiful. Yeah. Not to be gripped when you play music. Just play.
Yeah.
We spent a lot of time playing back in the 90s. Mark Murphy would come through town, and we played, I don't know, probably a total of 20 or 30 weeks with them. And we did a record with them, a trio that I had up here. And that was the same thing when he would come through, of course, just the way he approaches music, just throw it out there.
Yeah, he is beautiful.
Yeah.
I was talking about his last record with somebody last night. Oh, we were talking about, there's been a few things that have come out on video lately. One is, Dan, I know you're out there, and send me a text or something, but what's that guy's name? He's a famous sex symbol singer from the 60s. He's English or Australian or something. He sang Delilah.
Oh, Tom Jones.
Tom Jones. So there's this new video of him. He's up there in age, and he's singing this.
80, yeah.
Yeah, he's singing this pretty depressing song about growing old and dying, basically.
Yeah.
So we were talking about him. There's somebody else we were talking about. Like, is it art, or is it necessary? Or, I mean, it's not necessary. I don't know if that's the correct word, but, you know, is it art, I guess, just to present that, you know, because it's the truth for him. But Mark Murphy, did you hear, or were you on it? The last record that he did?
No.
It was such a gorgeous thing. It was as if he was saying, this is, you know, I'm coming to the last part of my life, and this is what it is, and it's great, it's beautiful, and like he was speaking to you, like when you listened to it, you felt like that. I would rather hear that, you know, rather than I'm getting old and I'm dying, you know, but
yeah, right.
I'm growing old. Thanks, Dan. I saw that.
I'll remind myself not to do the getting old and dying record. That's
yeah. Oh, by the way, Frank said, sorry, but those records went south. Good LP, though.
I got the CD later, so it's fine.
By the way, I think if you're interested, I think you can see last night's concert of Sam First on their site still, or on YouTube.
Cool. I'm looking forward to getting down there and checking out that, man, since Blue Whale went away. I can only imagine what you guys are going through. That was just painful. What a great place.
Yeah. June, the founder, was my student. And
Yeah.
yeah, he was a singer, and he is a singer. And yeah, he was the kind of guy who shows up on your doorstep and can do it. But he doesn't fully know that he can do it or what he's doing. But he could do it right away. And then, years later he said, "Hey, Kath, I'm opening a club." And I was like, "What? You're what?" And he said, "Yeah, downtown." And, it
Wow.
turned out to be the Blue Whale, and what an amazing place. I was so
What,
proud of
yeah.
him.
Yeah. To be able to express yourself through a club, we need more people like that, don't we?
Yeah, yeah.
Pretty great.
Yeah, so humble and kind and giving, and that's what that club was. It's really an expression of love. It's great.
Yeah.
Are there clubs like that in your area?
Well, we went through the same thing. We lost Tula's was a place that we played
I
for
remember Tula's. Yeah,
25 years, and it went through different, uh, you know, um, over the years. Certain times it was great fun, and other times it was really annoying. But overall, it was our community house. And in the last few years, they got a new manager, and it was just it was working, and it was great, and then it went away.
that was a
The
great
way
room.
they do.
Really, like a comfortable room, and the stage
Yeah,
was really nice.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
No, so I did thousands of gigs there, and yeah, and that was one of the only places where you had a listening audience and did all that. So we'll see what happens in the next 6 months
yeah,
if
yeah,
something comes to take its place.
yeah. I saw Clipper there doing some gig. I went up to do a few gigs with Greta and a workshop, and yeah, yeah, it was a good band. I'm not super familiar with the pianist, but he was
Darren
really good.
Clendenin, maybe.
So who?
Darren
No,
Clendenin or
no.
Bill Anschel. I wonder.
I think it was Bill, actually.
Yeah,
Yeah, very nice, really
yeah,
beautiful. Yeah.
yeah. No, that was a good scene. And yeah, unfortunately, I mean, all you need is a one human to drop into a place and open something and create a whole new thing. It's just how do you get that one human to do
I'm going to quote you on that. I love
that?
that. All you need is one human.
Yeah.
um, Joyce said the Royal Room in Seattle is nice.
Royal Room. Yeah, no, that's a great spot. Uh, yeah, there's just you know uh, looking for that place where you can play and get paid,
Oh,
that
really?
kind of thing.
Money?
Remember
Yeah.
those days?
Yeah, I do actually.
Yeah. So
Barely, but I do remember.
so there's still some rooms. I mean, that's the main thing. It's like the Royal Room is a great hang, and and some of the stuff coming through there is just great. But you're just finding that place that's professional on all levels, including getting paid and everything.
Yeah, yeah.
That would be nice to have again.
I'm gonna actually play one of your videos. And now these videos, I hate to repeat myself, but these are cool to play. YouTube won't take me down, probably.
Uh, well, they're all on YouTube, so it should be just fine. Be just fine.
Sometimes what it is the proprietary things. Like, for instance, I played Kurt Elling doing An American Story, and it was the official video. So
Mhm.
it was proprietorial, and they took me down. So YouTube is better about it than Facebook, but still, they have actually mostly the European things that I've played, they've taken down. But so there's Hal Galper, Ernie
Yeah,
Watts.
those were both the Hal Galper things were both done at the Blue Whale.
Oh, okay. Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
and then Ernie Watts, we did a video from our Ballard Jazz Festival in 2019. So
Uh-huh.
that's the whole concert we can all sit here for an hour and 20 minutes, watch that whole thing.
Well, I am going to go get some more water because I have a little chronic cough.
Yeah.
But I'm going to start this and then I'll come right back. And here we are. Hal Galper Trio live at the Blue Whale. Speaking of the Blue Whale, I'm sorry I missed this one.
Yeah, it was a nice time. A lot of people missed it.
Oh, that's a
goes.
shame. Yeah. But anyway, here we are again. Hal Galper Trio. Who's on bass?
Jeff Johnson.
Okay, cool. Here we go. Whoops. Beautiful. Oh, Alex Shaloff did that. Beautiful. Yeah.
Takes me back. Takes me back.
Your playing is beautiful.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. This song was, it's kind of a short song, right? The real song itself.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me a little of Benny Maupin. You know,
Yeah.
how he has these kind of small songs, small heads, and but then which he plays over and over again. He doesn't just play it once and that's it. He'll play it on every gig or for a while, you know, and it's a vehicle to go wherever the music takes you that day.
Yeah. No, and with Hal, the same thing where, he's pulling out tunes, some that he wrote 50 years ago, or standards that he's been playing for just decades. And to be able to get inside of them after this long and, old
Yeah.
friends, that kind of thing, that's where you can expand out of confidently and with that kind of thing where whatever I was saying.
That's delicious. Normally, I mean, when you're a singer, you really have to make it a real point to go there, because, people's concepts of singers are, they're going to sing the song and they may solo but we'll hold it together, but yeah, I have some musicians who I play with down here. This group called The Moment, which we recorded live at the Blue Whale, actually. Gary Fukushima on
Yeah,
keyboards.
Gary's a great guy.
Yeah, and Brad Dutz, you probably know Brad Dutz. Jeff Richmond on guitar and Chuck Manning on tenor, and no bass player. And Yeah, every time we ever have gotten together over the years, it's always the same kind of exploratory thing,
Mhm.
which is just, I love it. I'm much more interested in listening to instrumentalists than singers. I mean, I like a good singer. I like a good singer. Let me say that again.
Yeah, don't we
But
all? Yeah.
but instrumentals are just so much more. There's just more. There's more to be satisfied with, more, more of the road to be traveled on.
Uh, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, as you know, being a vocalist, it's a tough thing because you're always having to deliver yourself. It's like it's hard to be a sideman on gigs when you're a singer.
Yeah.
So that's the tough one. You have to come up with the whole concept and delivery and the whole attitude and the whole personality of the performance that's going to happen. Um, and instrumentalists are, we get we're back in the back for 1,000 gigs, and then you step up front once, but you've got all this stuff to draw from. Like you see a certain audience, you can just kind of pull this thing out that will work, or you just have all this. And I mean, for a great singer to come and take over a room, it's pretty stupendous, just because you don't have that same thing well to draw from.
Yeah. It's a very personal issue. I mean, when I think about the singers that I like to watch, like Mark Murphy was a great example. I mean, he was totally commanding as soon as he stepped on the stage. And it wasn't because he was singing loud or anything like that. It was just his point of view.
Yeah.
He delivered his point of view so beautifully.
Well, and
And
as a player in the band, I mean, the thing about Mark was he was fully integrated
yeah,
with what we were doing.
yeah,
With and he would be traveling all over the world in these throw together groups, but he would be immediately integrating with the group, either musically or just he would be listening. He would be there, and I mean, that's a tough thing to do when you are the front person and you're worried about all those other things, just to hand it over and fully commit yourself to that moment of creating music. So
yeah. It's interesting that that word "handed over,"
mhm,
because there's a balance between okay, so the singer, I always tell my students this, you're basically the leader. It doesn't mean that the musicians aren't doing what they're supposed to do and they can do, but you come up, you want to do this song, you want this key, you would like this tempo and style. Okay, I'm going to sing, now you solo. Okay, I'm coming back, now I'd like to end.
mhm,
And but handing it over is, um, you know, there's so much behind that.
mhm,
There's this humility that needs to be present, but certainty. For some reason, Buddy Rich pops into my mind because Buddy Rich had all of that, although he was thought as, kind of being an a-hole, because in a lot of ways. But I once read, he said, you have to have enough ego to get out of the way.
uh-huh,
I thought that was brilliant. And that's kind of what I'm talking about. There's this mix of things. You have to hand it over to the band, but there's things that you have to do too within that whole balance.
yeah, yeah, and like what you're saying is it takes so many levels of things: confidence, humility, uh, bravery. There's just all sorts of things there, because yeah, you're stepping out on a limb. You're giving up the rights to your show that's
Yeah.
under your name.
Yeah.
Um, but if you hire people that you trust, and you know, um, and most drummers and bass players, piano players, I don't know, that could be a different thing, but bass players and drummers I know about, and most all of them are just trying their hardest to make you look good. That's their job. And so just allowing them to do that, it is a tough thing to do. It's a tough stretch. But,
Yeah.
when you get to the real performers, the real ones, you see that they know how to do that.
Yeah.
It's personnel control and everything. But,
Yeah.
they've got that next step.
Yeah. And yeah, and it's not even about the arrangements, whether you have arrangements or not. In fact, there's two piano players who in Los Angeles who were so brilliant that when you got up to sing with them, it was stunning the way that they supported you.
Mhm.
It was overwhelming. Well, three really. There was Tom Garvin who
Mhm.
passed, and Lou Matthews
Mm.
and Ross Tompkins. Those three guys, they knew the art of accompaniment so well. They were total professionals. They had your back. What if you turned right, they were right under you, and giving you something to come off of. I mean, it was, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of wonderful piano players, but that feeling, you know, um, and of course with every player, but somehow that feeling is a little bit unique. Like I'm playing a jam session actually this week with a drummer, Aaron Safarti, and he is a drummer like that. He's not a super busy drummer, but his time is perfect, and every song in the song, I'm singing something, and he's right there with me, and it's thrilling, and comforting, and but it's thrilling. It's like, oh, you really get a hit off of that.
Yeah. What I miss now is the chance to, like, once you discover somebody like that, you discover that relationship, and
Yeah.
then you do a gig, and then
Right.
3 months, 8 months, another gig. To
Yeah.
be able to do something like that, and to have a room, and to have a way to develop that, and just have that be a thing for,
Yeah,
several
that is a
years.
gorgeous thing, yeah.
Yeah. And it's what I'm looking for always out of situations.
Yeah.
It's like, I think that's probably the bigger focus in life is how do you, when you have one of these good moments, how do you build it into something?
Yeah.
And the rest of it's going to take care of itself, the music, all of that, because at a certain point you just give up to it, you just do it. But it's developing those relationships and those situations, and it seems like it's the job of musicians now. That's it. you know what are you going
Yeah.
to do next?
Yeah, that's a beautiful point of view. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, you never know what pearls of wisdom you say until somebody else says, "Wow."
Yes, that's right. Yeah, no, I think of myself as just blabbing along.
Uh, what is oh, yeah, Joy said, she thinks Betty Carter is more like an instrumentalist. Absolutely. I mean, talk about handing it over and creating something. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, have you been reading those Benny Green posts he's been doing about
No,
Betty? And
about Betty?
on Facebook, those are great, where he's like reminiscing about what realizing what she meant to him and all these players back
Mm,
then. You should go look those up and read them. They're it's
yeah,
kind of outstanding
I will. Were
stuff.
you at the New York Jazz Congress when that crew of Betty Carter's past band members gave an event?
I was there. I didn't see that. We do our booth every year at Jazz
Oh,
Congress.
yeah,
So
yeah.
usually I'm out there and
Losing.
thinking I'll go see some stuff, but then it's just steady stream of people and lots of yapping.
I think you can go back and see everything,
Yeah, right.
It was a really good one. There were about 15 previous band members, and Benny was there,
Yeah.
and it was good. It was really good. I mean, she was, she was one of those people like Art Blakey or maybe Buddy Rich. She was tough, but it was tough love for the most part. If you were doing your job, if you were being the best you could be, and it was good. It was a really good to hear.
Yeah, no, that's one of the things Benny talked about was Betty's understanding that everybody who came into her band, they were all looking to be in Art Blakey's band. It was like she knew that her job was to train them and get them to this thing, and that she would send them on their way. And so Benny's talking about that and the realization of what that meant for her, at that time and everything. It's heavy.
Yeah. Imagine knowing that. Imagine just kind of getting there and knowing that. Yeah, that touches on what we were talking about before, about getting older and looking back, and she was in the moment, of course, with those realizations, but also looking back too.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah. Has your playing, do you think when you played with Hal, that was when your playing shifted a lot in your mind, or were there other moments?
I think the playing, I'm not sure. I mean, yeah, definitely there was, things that happened during that time, but I think post, mid 90s, the playing thing has all been just more my own perceptions and my own, the experiences and what I'm listening to and how all that, how I respond to what's coming in.
Yeah.
So it's hard. It's hard to say. I mean, definitely the Hal thing was freeing, but mostly on the level of, I can just stop thinking about certain things when I play.
Right.
I'll just respond.
I can relate to that.
And I can get to and it's kind of required. It's required that when we step on stage that we just relax.
Yeah.
And so, to go from not worrying about what notes I have to play or what tempos or what things we have to accomplish with this set,
Yeah.
Instead of that, it's just you have to relax and have an open mind,
Yeah.
So that was the main thing that came from that.
Yeah.
And then you realize, oh, I'm safe. All I got to do is relax, and I should be fine with most anything.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So,
it's the faith,
yeah. Yeah. So more than anything, it's just attitude and how you approach things, and more than the actual music and what it's supposed to sound like and all that.
Yeah, I love that. And I love knowing, it's funny, I always felt like I knew that, always, from when I was born or something. But every year that passed, I would realize that I hadn't really fully been looking. And then the next year I would realize I hadn't really been fully looking. And then the next year, and it's still happening. It's like, oh, I didn't know I was looking left. I thought I was looking right the whole time,
Yeah.
So I suspect that'll happen every year.
Well, and I think you talked about on one of your other things the other day where you got into talking about the process.
Yeah.
And I mean, after a while you figure out, oh, yeah, I suck at this right now, but I'm supposed to.
Yeah.
This is part of the process.
Yeah.
So just going along for the ride, and then we die.
Exactly. And then maybe we get born again.
Yeah. Yeah. What the hell?
What the hell? Have you, I should know this, But have you made your own recordings under your own name?
I made one under my own name, but I think it was because it was like a power play. There was no reason for it to be under my name. It was the trio
Okay.
thing, and that was just one. No, I always liked the band thing was always important to me. Not being alone was
Yeah.
always important. So almost everything I've done through my life, I've always like if I'm going to go to a camp in high school, like the Stan Kenton Clinic or the down to LA to the Billy Cobb and Louis Bellson thing, I'd always want to find a friend to drag along. And it was the same thing with like making music. It was like always having a band, always being surrounded by people, and having it be a democratic,
Yeah.
group thing. Yeah, I don't really have any interest in, I think I've got enough stuff that says this is who I am.
Yeah.
There's like the label and the festival and the bands and all that stuff. So I'm not too worried about the name up front.
The festival meaning, is it the Earshot Festival or
Now the
something?
Ballard Jazz Festival.
And what is
Which,
that?
so stepping back a little bit, when I started Origin Records, I don't want to leave out anybody. There's when I started Origin, one of my old students had moved to New York, Matt Jorgensen, and we were talking every week about his experiences going to the new school and lessons and playing and doing all that stuff. And when I started the label, it was we were talking, and he said, "Oh, I've been doing some web stuff, trying to figure that out," because this was 97. So I mean, the internet was brand new. So
Yeah.
he was figuring that stuff out. So he said, "I've got a record that I want to make, so maybe I can build Origin a website, and then can put this record out." And so Matt's been there all along.
Hmm.
And one of the things he's good at is stepping out in front, like at a concert. He's glad to grab the mic and announce and do all that stuff, where I have no interest in that. So anyway, as a team, we work pretty well in that way. And so in 2002, I think we put together a little thing because the Earshot Jazz Festival was going on, and I had been living in Ballard, this little neighborhood up here, and doing weekly stuff. And so they asked if we wanted to put together a little like jazz walk amongst some clubs. So we did that. And then the Ballard Chamber of Commerce came to Matt and I and asked if we would help them put together this Ballard Jazz Festival.
Huh.
So we got together with them, and they were wanting to like bring in Branford and Diana Krall, and it's like, oh, that sounds great. If you got like 150,000, I think we can get started on this. And so it's like, oh, no, no. So anyway, weekly meetings, and we put together a festival that we did in 2003. Brian Blade Fellowship and Vincent Herring and Nancy King, and we had our jazz walk and had clinics. And then anyway, we did that for like 3 years with the chamber, and then they decided that they weren't making enough money, so they bowed out. So then it was just Matt and I for the last 19 years.
Oh my God.
Cranking out a festival once a year for
Oh my God.
like a 4-day thing with,
Jeez.
yeah.
Oh
So
my God.
yeah, it's kind of nuts too.
Yeah.
At the same time that we were doing that, All About Jazz, and was starting up in Philadelphia. Michael Ricci was starting that up, and he was doing a newspaper, and New York, Lawrence started his there. And so anyway, we started an All About Jazz Seattle newspaper. So Matt and I put together a print newspaper once a month for 4 years during that same period that we were starting the festival. So complete morons. Complete. It was a lot of work.
Yeah, I can just imagine.
So that turned into a website. So that's the SeattleJazzScene.com. And but the festival, as soon as we get to have another one, that'll be in 2022 is when we'll return.
Man. Yeah, man. You're impressive. Can we let's hear something else. Mark Murphy, You Go to My Head, Ernie Watts, Scenes.
So the Ernie is our last festival performance. So you could just play the first tune off of that and then fade out because it's the whole damn thing.
Okay. So the first cut or
Yeah.
something like that? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that should be easy.
I think if it's any good. I can't remember.
Yeah, it's probably good. Whoa. Oh. Wow.
Thank you very much. Good evening. Good evening, everybody.
He's so soft-spoken, you know?
Yes.
It's a pleasure to
yes.
be back.
And then he plays.
Yeah, man, that was awesome. You know what always strikes me about him is that it almost sounds like he's playing an alto. You know, his tone is, but I don't know of any other sax players. There probably is because I'm not the big connoisseur, but he's probably one of the only guys who uses the tenor like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It kind of seems like it. And there's that just insistence in his tone and his,
Yeah.
and what he's doing.
Yeah.
Part of the reason we had him at the concert there was because that trio with Mark Seals and Doug Miller, we started playing together in '87,
Uh-huh.
and it was like a working trio for 20 something years, and we'd started playing with Ernie back in probably early '90s, late '80s.
Uh-huh.
It was kind of like with Mark Murphy, where we do, a couple weeks, and then 6 months later we do a week, and
Yeah.
like that. And we had done a record in 1999, and so this was like the 20th anniversary. And
Oh.
so, but yeah, every time we played with Ernie, it was like that was for me. It was one of the more like just intense kind of things. Like every show, at some point he would turn around and face the drums and just be playing this, fast stuff, and it would just be him and me blowing. And I never sweat on gigs normally, but that would be the sweat like a pig.
There was one moment when I thought to myself, "Oh, wow, the drums and him, these guys sound really good together." You know. Um,
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Yeah, and that's kind of built into. I mean, like every 3 or 4 days, I'll have a flashback of some tune that we used to play together. In the early '90s. One of his tunes that's just ridiculously fast and crazy.
Yeah, that was a nice arrangement too. Interesting. That, it was invitation, but it was some line. Yeah, it took me.
Variation on a theme.
Yeah, it was really cool. Very cool. Great, and the band sounds great. Bass player's great, and the pianist, Mark, he's really wonderful. Yeah. Um, let's see, you have a few comments like Eve Evans says hello.
Hi.
And Joyce says a really nice thing, which I'm sure is totally true. John has contributed so much to jazz in Seattle at the foundation of the local jazz scene. Thank you, John, for all you do quietly and consistently behind the scenes, as well as for all your playing.
Thanks, Joyce. She's the same. So she's always out there, always making stuff happen. So that's cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Um, so uh, what's going on right now? You're obviously involved in Origin. That's like a consistent,
That's all day, every day,
yeah.
late into the night. Yes.
Is it like every single day?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Well, then, I mean, except for playing
Uh, yeah. And
and
some life. There's
yeah,
some life in there.
life
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
teaching too, right? You
I have
teach.
Doug's. I haven't been teaching. I used to teach at the University of Washington for a few years,
Mm,
and
yeah.
got done with that in like 2011 maybe.
Oh,
And the label is like just been a consistent march. So starting in the last 15 years probably, we've been doing 25 to 35 records a year, and mostly now we're in the 35 kind of zone, which is a lot. I mean, that's basically more than any other label.
yeah.
So it's nonstop activity, just the whole thing.
How
But
big is your staff? Is it just you, or is it
oh, it's quite
two people?
significant. It's no, I've got.
Are you looking around to your staff hanging out in the
I was
background?
hoping there was somebody there, but there's not. No. No. So Matt has been. I do most of the
Oh,
day. I do the day-to-day everything stuff. Matt does a lot of the background things, the keeping the website moving and new release stuff. And then I've had um, a few different guys over the last 20 years.
uh-huh.
Chad McCullough, who's a trumpet player in Chicago now, he was just out of college when he started working for maybe 10 years here. And so, and I had interns coming in, so they put together my accounting system that I still use. And then Peter Daniel, a saxophone player, came on for a few years. But both my main people now that are working are ex-drum students.
Hmm.
So there's Evan and Chris and Matt are all ex-drum students, and Evan for the past year since the pandemic has been real good about all the online databases. Where it used to be, I would have to worry about our distributors database. Now we have to worry about 5, 6, 7, 8 databases that we have to get stuff into with all the digital media. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, this whole racket since digital stuff has just turned into a hell on earth. Just,
Yeah.
because we didn't have to deal with that stuff. It's just like what we're all going through with Facebook and YouTube as far as,
Yeah.
stuff being, it's just a new world, all built on data and multinational tech corporations. And, it's just a new world. So that takes up a lot of time, and that changes every 3 months. There'll be like a radical change in how that works. So we have to adapt and try to make things fit. And then, and then I end up spending a lot of time, like, had a long discussion with one artist the other day who was thinking about, I think I just want to do LPs and digital. So we have to talk about what that means.
Oh my God.
And then somebody else is saying, I just want to do CDs, but I don't want to do any digital. So we have to talk about what that means and how that fits into their lives. So there's a lot of therapy going on that didn't used to have to happen.
Oh my God. How do you think musicians are making money these days?
Well, I'm not sure. Well, what's funny is I think like most musicians I know get by pretty well. And it's because, we're like cockroaches. We figured out something early on. It's like, you got to make a living. If you want to make the music, you've got to figure it out.
Yeah.
So, whether it's teaching, have a few students here and there, recording, just whatever there is,
Yeah.
For me, it ended up, doing CD covers and all that.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what I would do if I were just a drummer now. I can't even imagine how you hold it together.
Of course, the question of, should I make CDs? Where can I sell CDs? Blah, blah, blah. And of course, everybody like me has a few thousand CDs in their garage of themselves, because especially from before, when you always, for me, I would always make 1,000 because the difference between making, 500 and 1,000, the money was ridiculous. So it was like, well, for a few $100s more, you're going to get CDs. And frankly, the most CDs I sell is when I go to Japan.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of the money I make when I go to Japan, a big part. And I know you use CDs for sending out and for those people who are apparently still buying them. What's your point of view on CDs?
CDs were the greatest invention ever for the musician. I mean, the last 20 years or whatever it's been of that, that was it. That got us to the point where you could afford to make them. They last for a long time. Everybody had a CD player. You can't say the same for LPs or cassettes in the same sort of way. I mean, 97, which I think was the peak of CD sales, it was huge. And it still lives. I mean, I think the main thing we're up against right now is like we've got social media. There's a lot of something gets said on social media and it just turns into mythic kind of stuff. You've got the major labels own Spotify. They own all of this stuff. It's a multi-billion-dollar racket, and they're the ones who are telling the story. And the story is CDs are dead, digital, it's the way it's going, Spotify, just live with it, people, figure it out, live with it. And it's like, well, I don't know. McDonald's came along and I can still eat a salad that didn't come from McDonald's. I can still eat, I can live a good life without that. Digital is what it is. It's, I think we need to be involved with it, and there are some pluses, but I mean, just going back to simplicity, it's like you have an artist and you have an audience. You have a human that wants to hear your stuff. They want to, the ones who care, the ones who invest are still buying CDs. People who listen on Spotify and all that stuff, they're not in the game. They're not paying out any money. I don't really care what they think. It doesn't matter to me. The ones who still own CD players, of which there are billions in the world, they still sell millions a year. Billions, tens of millions of CDs are still being sold. It all exists. It's all out there. Radio, media, still dependent on CDs.
Yeah.
Every year, they try to get them, promoters and different people try to get them to move to digital servicing. Basically, they're not interested.
Yeah.
And great. I mean, I want a CD out in the world. I just ordered a CD I made in 1984 that I didn't have a copy of, and I found it in a shop in Chicago and ordered it for $4 or whatever. It was still floating out there with the names of all those people involved with it, and that art and the whole thing was still out there, and somebody in a shop in Chicago put it on the shelf, said, this is worth putting on the shelf. I could toss it, but I'm not going to. So there still is that's still exists. It's still there. Is it a pain in the ass now with the way everything goes and the amount that we don't sell? Yeah.
I'm pretty annoyed that cars stopped putting CDs in, CD players. I don't get that. I really don't get that. I don't know why. What's the big friggin' deal?
It's a multinational mega companies who are like, Sirius XM, companies that are trying to change how that works. And they know if they get rid of the CD, then they'll move people to, iPods. That was a major thing where they just make a lot of money selling those things, and having free music for them is great. So, it's a thing where they make a lot of money, and I don't know how you record the New York Phil and when you don't have any income from recordings. So you just kind of wonder where things are going to go.
Yeah.
If we went their model, where do we end up?
Yeah.
So I'm not willing to do that yet. And I'm still, I get to see the numbers for digital, and I get thousands of lines of data of 0.00048 cents. And so I get to see all of that. And then, you see CD sales drop, but at the same time, I mean, somebody used to sell 250 CDs. Now they sell 85. It's like, neither was going to pay your rent anyway.
Yeah.
So, but you still have this thing that gets out there. And I guess the most important thing to me is when radio people and media, I think when they stop doing it, that'll be the time to reassess, only because that's like one of the more important relationships I think we have in the world, are those people that have an audience of their own. Mm-hmm. And they're still sharing in that visceral experience of seeing names involved with the project. They're not just saying, oh, Cathy, there's a CD. Cathy's new CD is great. There's not, oh, no, it's Cathy and Anthony Wilson and all these people that had a hand in this.
Yeah, I know, that's so important.
Yeah.
Really is important.
Yeah. So for me, CDs aren't going anywhere. And as soon as they do, I'll be done with this, because I'm not going to go to a digital only platform just because there's nothing there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm comfortable doing CDs right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's play something. I actually, I've been kind of thinking of playing the Mark Murphy thing.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So let me see.
This
how
is that same trio. So Mark would
you
come
were
to
on,
town.
wait, you were on Song for the Geese?
Uh-huh.
Oh, I see the band. Oh, let me share my screen.
So he'd come and we'd play, and we kind of built up these different things on the gig,
Yeah.
and it was great. He just like let us do whatever we wanted, and we built up these arrangements, and he decided to do a record because of that, and so it was cool. We were real proud of this, being able to be a big part of it. We weren't just guns for hire. We were like part of this little ensemble.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a beautiful record. Beautiful record. Is this the one that was arranged by Roger Trees?
So Roger did, he had a vocal trio called Full Voice.
Yeah.
So yeah, so part of the record, he's on, I don't know how many tunes where he did the arrangements for those and the vocal thing. And then as the trio, we did, the other arrangements.
Oh, okay. Wow, now I'm going to listen to it in a whole new light.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Well, I Wish You Love.
Goodbye, no use leading with our chins. This is where our story ends. Never lovers, ever friends. Goodbye, let our hearts call it a day. But before you walk away, I sincerely wanna say I wish you bluebirds in the spring. Give your heart a little song to sing, and then a kiss, hey, and baby, but more than this, I wish you love. And in July, yeah, a lemonade to cool you in your leafy glade. I wish you health, more than wealth. I wish you love. My breaking heart, and I gotta agree that you and I could never be so. With my best, my very best, I set you free. I wish you shelter from the storm. Goes a little fire to keep you warm. Most of all, when the snowflakes fall, I wish you love. Oh, with my best, my very best, I set you free. I wish you shelter from the storm, a cozy fire to keep you warm, yeah. But most of all, when snowflakes fall, I wish you love.
Wow.
Yeah,
That was good.
miss that voice.
Yeah. Whoops. Sorry. My fish to birds. This is right here. This is actually, this is a guy who does sound a little bit like Mark. This group is my vocal improv group,
Oh,
except
wow.
this day we had Brad Dutz, and I'll just show you a little bit of it just since we are here. But yeah, we improvise, we make stuff up out of nothing. Anyway, it goes on from there. But
Sweet.
we've been together about 8 years. Yeah, and it's really it's a good time. You know, I mean, gosh, I miss singing with them because obviously, but
Yeah. No kidding. No, that looks like a lot of fun.
yeah, it's a great group, really fun. So yeah, that was really beautiful. Just Mark.
Yeah.
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 Just,
Yeah.
it's such a cool guy.
Yeah. No, that was a lot of fun, that whole period.
Yeah. Yeah, that song sounded great.
Thanks. Yeah, that record is really cool. I haven't listened to the whole thing in quite some time, so I need to go back too, because there was, yeah, that full voice stuff too. Like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, no, he does a couple just beautiful tunes with the background vocals and all that.
Yeah, yeah. Roger's good.
Yeah.
You know, that thing he did for Bobby McFerrin.
Right,
that-
right.
Wow, that's an amazing project. Yeah.
Very talented fellow.
Yeah. Well, we're actually coming to the end here.
What?
I know it's been 2
You
hours.
didn't tell me that there was an end to this.
You actually gave me 2 hours of your time. I really
Oh, geez,
humbly appreciate it.
No wonder my butt hurts.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. Yeah. No, this thing you've been doing, this is incredible. This is almost like 300 of these.
Yeah,
Good Lord.
this day is number 293.
Yeah, it's just cool. It's just great when people do things. They come up with an idea and then they do it.
Yeah, man. What did you say about
Kudos to
humans?
you.
Well, you said something, get a human or something.
All it takes is one.
All it takes is one human. You know what? I have to write that down. I mean, my plan is to go through all of these and write down things that jump out at me or did jump out at me and put it
Yeah.
in the book. But that might take me a while to get to the 293. So all it takes is one human. I'm gonna actually quote you. That is your quote, right?
It's something like that. I can't remember. I got so many of them. But no, I was just that comes to mind every time you think about, like, God, why don't we have more clubs or whatever, you know, just the standard lines. Well, hopefully another club will open, that kind of thing. It's like, you know, it's like going to New York, and if you took like all the main club owners and you put them in a room and you'd look at them and you'd go, this is it? this is what makes this town work.
Yeah.
These 6, 8 bizarre, socially maladapted people
Yeah.
make this whole scene work.
That is so true. I
incredible.
interviewed Rio. I'm sorry, I forgot her name. That's bad, my bad. But she is the artistic director for the Jazz Gallery in New York. She's been doing it 25 years.
Man.
And just started off, she was helping him, the usual
The way it always does, because,
yeah.
There's not too many ways that you could come into this racket and go, here's my vision. It's a club. Costs $2.5 million. We have fun people. It just never starts like that.
No, and then shit happens along the way, and you just deal with it. Yeah, you're so right about that. It is a small group of people who kind of instigate. I think one of my favorite things that I've ever done is started a jam session here. Well, now it was probably about 20 years ago. And the first 7 years, it was the most amazing session. It was the Sportsman's Lodge, which is kind of this large old Hollywood type of place in Studio City, with a whole event side, restaurants, and then the hotel, and we were there, and sometimes there were 200 people that showed up.
God.
And there was no stage. It was a floor with a glass behind it, and you saw through to the little ponds and stuff. And then the people sat in front, tables. There was a bar off to the side. And I guess I was just in that mood where when people came in, most of the time, instrumentalists, I could kind of just get them up while the music was going. And then the singers, I had to kind of be a little more ordered about the singers, but God, we would, there would be 3 horn players who kind of became the horn section, or 10 singers who would become the the background singing people, and we had, people met each other, they got gigs, they learned. It was an awesome session. That was probably one of my favorite things I've ever done.
Yeah. And just to think of the legacy of that, like how many people are right now going, yeah, remember that thing we used to go to? God, I wish there was something like that again. Just
I know.
Memories.
I know. Or, we met at Cathy's session.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Dan. Dan Davila, my Rio Sakiri, director of the Jazz Gallery. Thank you, Dan. I really appreciate that, because, I do have. And Joyce is suggesting my 300th guest wins a trip to Hawaii. Let's just see who the 300th guest is. That would be, let's see, you're 293, 94, 95, 96.
The 293rd guest should get something, some sort of car or
It's Gary Smulian.
Oh yeah.
Smulian.
Yeah, he doesn't need a
vacation
like that.
Trip like that. Yeah.
That guy.
I think you need a trip, actually.
Thank you. You and I both think that. That's about it.
Okay, I'll be thinking about how to get that to you.
Okay, good. Very good.
Well, thank you so much for hanging out.
My
really
pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. This is good. Yeah, considering you have a record coming out and we haven't really gotten to chat about it at all, this was a good little.
Yeah, I know. We
moving.
Connected up a little bit here. And so for those of you listening, I'm going to have my records, Social Anthems Volume 1, come out on Origin Records in September. So I'm really happy. And I have to say, and now you'll understand because we've talked for 2 hours, that it's perfect timing.
Yeah, indeed.
Indeed. It's didn't happen before because it wasn't the right moment, and now it's the right moment. I'm really happy about it.
Cool.
So thank you.
Excellent.
And for those of you in LA, Saturday night, if you feel like coming out and hanging out in a beautiful patio with good food and a real chill vibe and want to get up and jam, Saturday night at the conference room, you can find all the details on my website. And also, I will be Thursday through Sunday, I do archives, I post archives. So Diane Reeves is Thursday, and Philip Giffen is Friday, and Michael Patterson Saturday, and Catalina Popescu, who owns Catalina's, she's Sunday. And so it'll be a good week.
Excellent.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Nice to talk
See
to you.
y'all.
Bye. See
Bye.
you whenever.